All right, thank you, Naomi. I'm New York City Councilmember Brad Lander, and I'll be moderating the event tonight. I have had the good fortune to work with many of you on public policy that aims to do better at supporting freelancers and independent contractors. I want to start by thanking David Sifford from Village Independent Democrats and Mia Perlman from Lefty Strategies for seeing the need and getting the ball rolling on this event. And I want to thank Naomi Dan and Stephanie Solkowski on my staff for moving so quickly to get it set up, get this amazing set of panelists, increasing the size of our Zoom account, trying to figure out how to deal with the trolls, and fingers crossed, how to broadcast it to Facebook Live, where hopefully some of you will be able to see it as well. We'll also be recording this event and then sending it out along with a resource guide and a Q&A to everyone who registered. And thanks finally to Freelancers Union and New York Foundation for the Arts, who we'll hear from later, for doing so much to organize and build this community. We have overwhelming turnout for this call, over 2,300 people registered, and that really reflects the enormous loss of income, economic anxiety, and the very real suffering that people are experiencing as work has disappeared. But for now, at least the rent is still due, and obviously so many other expenses piling up. To get us started, I just want to very briefly appreciate the people on this call and others like you. We've been talking a lot this week, and you could just hear the cheering as we were starting the call, for the kind of officially sanctioned essential workers, and of course our doctors and nurses and healthcare workers and transit and grocery and sanitation and public service workers obviously deserve our gratitude and our applause and more in this impossible time. But we also know that art and music and poetry and journalism and books and movies and podcasts and so much more are also essential work that also save lives, that bring people together in common purpose, that help us stay sane and make sense of this totally insane world. You are an essential part of the economy and a very big part of what makes life worth living. Unfortunately, we've set up a rotten system for valuing your essential work as more and more of our economy has shifted from traditional W-2 employment to freelance and independent contracting. We have failed to build up a social safety net that helps individuals when they hit hard times, as we all do. Everybody gets sick, everybody has time they're not working but still need to eat. Everybody gets older and needs to retire, and yet we have not built up a system that makes that possible for a whole set of people like you. And now we are seeing the flaws in the way we've built a society, and obviously seeing that when everyone is experiencing at exactly the same time. And we're going to do everything we can to provide information tonight about how we help people recover in this moment. And then obviously there is work to do to build something better as we move forward. So we have this amazing set of panelists, and I'm going to just kind of go through them. I'm not going to introduce them all at the beginning. I'm going to do them one by one, but it's a really remarkable group, and I think it's responsive to the questions a lot of you have asked. To kick us off, we have Congresswoman Carolyn Maloney, who represents the east side of Manhattan and some of Queens and Brooklyn, and who has done a lot in Congress to stand up for gig workers and freelancers, and who helped lead the fight to make sure that you would be included in this disaster unemployment insurance. So Congresswoman, thank you so much for that fight. Thank you for your service, and thank you for being here.
Well, thank you. It's Carolyn Maloney calling in, and I want to thank you for inviting me to speak tonight. And a very special thank you to you, Brad Lander, council member, and David Sifford and Mia Perlman for making this happen. And the fact that so many people are on the line shows that there was such a need for this. After the passage of the $2.2 trillion disaster relief package, the largest ever in history, I have never been more proud to be an American and a Democrat. Democrats added this key provision and many others that help people, and we were able to negotiate key relief provisions for freelance workers, gig workers, and artists. And this program is there for you. All you have to do is apply for unemployment. And thanks to the Democratic negotiations with the Senate, we added this to the CARES Act, and it extends to self-employed individuals, independent contractors, gig workers, workers and individuals who have been unable to start a new job or contract due to the pandemic. The extra $600 federal dollars will come through your unemployment benefits from the New York State Department of Labor, and you should not need to do anything else to obtain it. But if you have any difficulty, you can contact my office. This is a new program, and I literally just got off of a telephone call with the Democratic caucus where we were discussing that the guidance of how it will be implemented and the criteria and the documentation that you would need for your income, that guidance has not been developed yet from the Department of Labor. So it is my job to push them to get that done as quickly as possible, and I welcome your input in any way you feel that this should be formatted in a way that is most helpful to you. And you really don't have to do anything to get your $1,200 check. If you filed in the past and the IRS has your contact or direct deposit information, you will get a check without having to do anything. If you have not filed, they will be conducting a campaign for outreach for more information, or you can contact my office and we will help you through that process. I want to thank everybody for what you're doing to help stop the spread of the virus by staying at home, practicing social distancing, and the federal government needs to do its part by providing relief. We are already working on the 4th relief package, so I welcome your input there too. But I'm as anxious as you are to hear from the experts on the panel. I thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk about these points, and I'd like to introduce Nicole Salk. She is a senior staff attorney at Brooklyn Legal Services. Legal Services is helping low-income and crisis-affected New Yorkers apply for unemployment benefits, and Nicole is going to go into some more detail on how you can access these benefits. I look forward to working with you in the future, and I look forward to Nicole's and all the other participants' comments. Thank you, and I yield back.
Hi, this is Nicole. I'm Nicole Salk, an attorney at Legal Services NYC in the Brooklyn office. I'm gonna share my screen now so I can do a PowerPoint. Hopefully this technology will work. I'm gonna be throwing a lot of information at folks. I'm sure you'll have a ton of questions. I may not be able to answer all of your questions, but I hope that since there's so many people on the line that we will be able to send more information out to all of you to answer as many questions as we can. I know people are really desperate right now, so I'm trying to give as much information that will be helpful to you. So I'm going to start to share the screen. Okay, let's see. Okay, here it is. So I'm just going to tell you a little bit about what I'm going to be talking about. So the first thing is that I'm going to talk a little bit about regular unemployment insurance. And the reason I'm going to talk about that is because actually many of you may actually be eligible for regular unemployment insurance. And even if you're not eligible for regular unemployment insurance, unfortunately you have to apply for it before you may be eligible for the other kind of unemployment that just passed through Congress called pandemic unemployment. So that's why I'm going to spend a little bit of time talking about regular unemployment insurance, because you will have to apply for it. And if you actually do qualify for it, it may be faster. So it may be something that you would definitely want to do anyway, because it may get you the benefits quicker. So the other thing I'm going to talk about is pandemic emergency unemployment compensation very quickly, and that's for people who may have applied for unemployment recently and have exhausted all their benefits. And the third thing, which I think everybody wants to hear about, is if you're not eligible for regular unemployment, what pandemic unemployment assistance you might be able to get. as the Congresswoman said, we don't have the guidance yet, so I'm sort of working off the best information that I can give you at this point. We'll try to provide updated information. And the other thing that you should know is that you can always go to the New York Department of Labor website. They have an excellent website. They have a lot of really good FAQs. I may be criticizing them during this call for other things, but I will give them a lot of credit. There are a lot of people who are working really hard right now. And the frontline workers are, just working super amounts of overtime. So that's, and a lot of folks have kids at home while they're doing this. So with regular New York unemployment benefits, the way that you would qualify is you have to have monetary eligibility, which I'll go into a minute. You must have lost your job through no fault of your own, and you must be capable, available, and looking for work. The monetary eligibility for unemployment is if you have W-2 employment. I know not everybody on this call, in fact, many people don't, but some people have mixed. Some people have some W-2 employment, some people have 1099 employment. So they look at your wages over the course of what's called a base period over the last 18 months to determine what your wages, what your benefit would be. And typically, if you're just someone who's got W-2 employment, typically it's half what your average weekly wage would be. So if you were earning $800 a week, typically you would get $400, up to a max in New York State of $504. Now, with the CARES Act that just passed, there's going to be an additional $600 that everybody who qualifies for unemployment, and frankly, when I tell you later about pandemic unemployment, everyone who qualifies from pandemic unemployment will also have a benefit rate, and they will get an additional $600 over that. So it could potentially be as much as $1,104 for everybody who qualifies for unemployment or for pandemic unemployment, which in some cases is more than replacement wage. So that's a really good and positive thing that just got passed. Thank you, Bernie Sanders. Okay, so to qualify for benefits, you must, this is just the basic eligibility. You must meet all three of the following earning requirements during your base period. You must have worked and been paid wages in jobs covered by unemployment insurance in at least 2 calendar quarters. You must have been paid at least $2,600 in 1 calendar quarter, and the total wages paid to you must be at least 1.5 times the amount paid to you. That's a very confusing circumstance, a very confusing standard. So the easiest way to figure it out is if you click on this, which I can't seem to do right now, but I think I can bring it up. Let me see if I can do that. Hold on a second. I'll show you what it looks like on the web, because it's a really interesting, fun thing to be able to do. Okay, hold on a second. Here it is. Can everyone see this? This is the calculator on the Department of Labor website, and it's on this PowerPoint, which I think everyone will have access to. How you access this, but you go on the Department of Labor and you could put in your wages. They do it by quarters. So again, this is for W-2 employment. I'm going to be talking about other employment later, but this is the first thing. If folks have any employment, any W-2 employment at all, they put it into the quarters. And I just want to point out something kind of cool, which is that if you have a higher amount of wages in the most recent quarter, you actually can potentially bring your benefit rate up much higher. Now, these are extraordinarily low, very, very low amounts. But remember that in addition to this, you add another $600 a week. So that helps a lot. But the difference between what is normally used to determine your wages, determine your benefits, is this normal basic base period. The Department of Labor will only go to the most recent quarter if you don't have sufficient wages in the rest of your basic base period. They will not go to this most recent quarter automatically, even if you have a higher benefit rate. And I won't go into the reasons for that right now, but they will not do that. You have to ask for it. Okay, so I'm going to go back to the PowerPoint. Okay, so how long does regular unemployment last? It lasts 26 weeks, plus now another 13 additional weeks for 39 weeks altogether. So I'm going to start to answer some of the questions that came up when people were signing up for this webinar. One of the questions was, my most recent job paid more than my previous job. Can I get a higher benefit rate? And the answer is yes. By choosing the alternate base period, you may bring your benefit rate up. You can request the alternate base period within 10, if you request the alternate base period within 10 days of the date that you receive your monetary benefit determination, which you will get in the mail to you. You can, if you're able to send out a request by the mail, I know it's really hard right now, or you're able to fax out a request for the alternate base, you can get a higher rate. My hours, one of the questions that came up, my hours reduced, am I eligible for regular unemployment? New York has the worst in the nation partial unemployment law. I hate to say that to everybody, but it's true, the worst in the entire country. You can get partial benefits if you worked fewer than 4 days and made less than the maximum benefit rate. But any day of work, and that can be even an hour or two or just a few minutes, counts as a day of work. So whereas everywhere else in the country, it's based on what you earn and you can get an earnings disregard, in New York, they're very strict about this. So it's something to consider. And I believe the same will be true with pandemic unemployment. So if you're working as a freelancer and you're working, you know, part-time, you want to try to put all of your work on one day. You definitely want to definitely want to work less than 4 days, because if you don't work less than 4 days, you won't not qualify for any unemployment. Some questions also, and this may be also true for pandemic unemployment, just not regular unemployment. Are non-citizens eligible for unemployment? And the answer to that is that it depends. If you are a permanent resident, or you've had, or you have work authorization during the relevant base period, and you continue to have work authorization. So there's many people who are not permanent residents, but they have work authorization, such as DACA recipients. You may very well be eligible for unemployment. Another question that came up was, if I have incorporated a business or I have an S corporation, am I eligible for unemployment? The answer to that is also, it depends. Now, many people who have 1099 employment, I'm sorry, 1099 earnings, those folks may have, you know, started an S corporation to be able to help them deduct expenses. Some of those folks may be eligible for regular unemployment, and especially if their business is a very part-time home-based business. As long as you have, as long as your income is mixed and you have some W-2 employment, or you may have had it somewhere in the last 18 months, you may qualify for regular unemployment. If I live in one state and work in another, or have gigs in many, where should I apply for unemployment? The general rule is that you must apply in the state that you work. So if you work in New York, and you live somewhere else, you apply in New York. If you live in New Jersey and you work in New York, you apply in New York. If you work in more than one state, you have the choice of applying in whatever state you've worked in, as long as it's within the relevant base period. The reason why that's important is because sometimes, especially this is again mostly around W-2 employment, you will have a higher benefit rate if you've worked in New Jersey or many of the surrounding states. I know that's true in Connecticut as well. And so you may want to, if you've done work in New Jersey or you've done work in Connecticut, you may actually want to apply for benefits in that state, because you might get a higher benefit rate. Again, whatever state benefit rate you get, you add $600 on that, at least for the next 4 months. That will increase people's earnings, people's benefits. one of the other questions that came up was the questions on the New York State unemployment application don't apply to me because I don't have a single employer and paid through 1099s. How should I answer the question or document my income? If you have been paid by several employers, your W-2 employers usually show up, and you should be able to write in at least one of your 1099 employers in the application. If you have been misclassified, and I know this is a bit of it's hard sometimes to figure out if you have been misclassified or if you're an actual independent contractor, you can send or fax in a reconsideration form and attempt to have your income counted. This is for regular unemployment. The classic situation would be Uber, Lyft, or Postmates workers. Those folks are misclassified. Those folks qualify for regular unemployment, but they have a little bit of a harder burden to overcome to prove it, and to mostly prove their wages that they've earned. But there is a process, and if people have more questions about that, we can help guide them through that. All right, I'm going to talk a little bit next about pandemic emergency unemployment compensation. That is, if you have received unemployment in the past, but you've exhausted recently, anyone who's exhausted your benefits after July 1st of 2019 may be eligible to receive 13 additional weeks of benefits. So if you had a recent claim, you may be able to reopen that claim and start certifying for benefits, and you may be able to get additional 13 weeks of benefits. Now, I'm going to go to pandemic unemployment assistance. This is the thing that I think most people are really interested in on this call. I want to just emphasize that the reason I spent so much time talking about state unemployment, regular unemployment, is because if there's any way to be eligible for that, we suspect that that may be the faster way to get benefits. So if you have W-2 employment and you have sufficient employment, and I showed folks about how to do that calculator on the Department of Labor website to sort of figure out if you qualify for benefits based on your W-2 employment, you really should think about applying immediately. We're going to encourage people to apply immediately, even if they don't, because even if they don't have sufficient wages, the reason is because in order to qualify for pandemic unemployment assistance, which is mostly for independent contractors and self-employed folks, they would have to apply for regular state unemployment. And I'll go into a little bit about how that works. So basically from January 27th, 2020 to December 30th, 2020, individuals who are not otherwise eligible for benefits and are unemployed, partially unemployed, or unable or unavailable to work because of COVID-19 may be eligible for pandemic unemployment assistance. And that includes, it's mostly going to be about self-employed folks. It's mostly going to be about those folks and folks who are independent contractors, but it is also people who have insufficient work history. So they wouldn't have enough benefits. They may have been paid as employees with W-2s, but they do not have sufficient earnings to establish regular state unemployment insurance claim. The weekly benefit amount for PUA, for pandemic unemployment assistance, is going to be the weekly benefit rate that an individual would have received if they were otherwise eligible for benefits. We'll talk a little bit more about that. Plus, you get another $600 at least through the end of July. Hopefully that'll be extended. The maximum duration of regular benefits and pandemic unemployment that an individual may receive from January 27th, 2020 to December 30th, 2020 is 39 weeks. Individuals who have the ability to telework with pay or are receiving paid sick or other paid leave benefits are not eligible for pandemic, and frankly, they probably wouldn't be eligible also for regular state unemployment. How do you apply for pandemic unemployment? So we do not believe there is currently an actual application up to be able to apply for it. We have been told that there is none as of, at least as of today. So you cannot apply for pandemic unemployment, however, until you have been determined ineligible for regular state unemployment insurance benefits. Therefore, we are suggesting that people apply for regular unemployment and be denied regular unemployment before they apply for pandemic unemployment. And you can apply at the website that is listed here for regular unemployment. You can go on labor.ny.gov to check if the pandemic unemployment application is up as well. What if I am self-employed or an independent contractor and don't have recent wages? How will they determine the benefit rate for pandemic unemployment? We don't know yet, but we believe based on federal regulations, the following. This is how we think they're going to do it. Don't quote me, but I think this is what they're going to do because it's based on something called disaster unemployment that was around during Hurricane Sandy. This is how they've indicated through the federal regulations that they will be doing it. We believe that they will look at 2019 tax returns. And they will look at your net earnings, and if you do not have a 2019 tax return filed, you can also, we believe a process will be set up that you will be able to provide a statement of what your net earnings are. I suspect, although I do not know, that they will spread it out over the course of 4 quarters, and they will do this. The typical way to do it is they take whatever your highest quarter is, but here, since they're going to be spreading it out over 4 quarters, they will all be the same if this is indeed the way they're going to do it. So please forgive me, I don't know because we haven't been told exactly. It'll be 1/26 of whatever the quarter amount will be your basic benefit rate up to 504 with an additional $600 added on. So potentially people can get an additional $1,100.
Nicole.
I'm sorry, yes.
Yeah, I'm gonna this is really what people want, and I know there's a lot of questions in relation to it. So let me just say a couple of things. Nicole's gonna kind of speed through the rest of this presentation because we've got a whole bunch of other great panelists. I'm gonna ask her a couple of the questions that are coming up in the chat and the Q&A. It's gonna be way more than we can get to tonight, and so we will be following up with people and trying to figure out how to help you get more specific questions. But just to Nicole, as you go through a lot of people are asking, if I apply, for traditional UI and have a little bit of W-2 income, but then there's a lot of 1099 income, am I going to be able to come back and add that on? And then just a ton of people saying, I'm just calling and I can't get through and I'm calling 300 times. That
So let me answer both of those questions. So if you have a sufficient income in enough quarters, if you meet that test, which not everybody will with their W-2 wages, and you are able to establish a benefit rate through regular unemployment, you will get that regular unemployment rate and you will get a $600 add-on. You will not be eligible for pandemic unemployment at that point, as far as we know, unless I'm given new information. That is my understanding, that if you qualify for regular unemployment, you will get regular unemployment. And I know that's a bummer because some people probably would maybe have a slightly higher rate with their independent contractor work, through their net earnings, through their tax return. But at this point, that is my understanding of how it's going to work. That may change. You should check the website, but that is my understanding. If you qualify for regular unemployment, and you have to apply for it in order to even qualify for pandemic, is what we're being told. You have to first apply for regular unemployment. Then you will not, as far as I know, you probably will not be able to get a higher rate using your independent contractor income at some point. The benefit, though, of qualifying for state unemployment is that if you can get through, and I'm going to talk about how you do that in a moment, you will get the benefits probably a lot quicker than you will through pandemic unemployment. Why do I say that? Because there's not even an application up right now, okay, for pandemic unemployment. It is going to take a while for them to get this going. They're going to have to figure out how they're going to do it. I don't know if they're going to allow people to self-certify. I certainly hope that they do, meaning that you just provide the information and they immediately issue the benefits. That would be the best way. Knowing the Department of Labor, that's probably not going to happen, but maybe it could if enough pressure is put on. So I think if people actually qualify for regular state unemployment, it will be faster. And for people who really need the money now, that's probably the best way to go anyway. And that's what you have to do, as far as we know, before you can qualify for pandemic. And if you qualify for regular state UI, you cannot get pandemic. You get whatever the rate is for regular state unemployment. How you get there really quickly, how you apply, is please apply online. It is true that some people cannot complete their applications online and then they have to call, and that totally sucks because you cannot get through. You're going to get a busy signal. I don't know what to tell you about that. But if you qualify for regular unemployment and you can get through online and answer the questions very, go through the questions and qualify, you should be able to get your benefits a lot quicker. People are getting them if they're able, because if they're able to complete their application online, they're getting their benefits. We already know people are getting them. Is there any other questions? Okay. What is the maximum benefit I can receive from pandemic? Your benefit rate is based on your recent wages. In New York, the current maximum weekly benefit rate is $504. The minimum pandemic benefit rate is 50% of the average weekly benefit amount in New York. So there'll be a minimum, and this minimum from pandemic is actually higher than what it is for regular unemployment, believe it or not. The minimum rate will be 172. I'm sorry, the minimum rate is now going to be 182. If it's backdated, it'll be 172 plus $600. So always be $600 on top of that. So whatever your rate is, let's say you have the highest weekly benefit rate of $504, it'll be $1,104 per week for at least the next 4 months. And after that, you can probably continue to get many additional benefits, but it'll be at the lower rate unless the Congress extends out the $600 increase. Okay. One of the questions we got, because can I apply for unemployment based on my future work that has been canceled? So if you do not have work right now, then you can apply for unemployment insurance. And if you don't qualify for regular state unemployment insurance, you can then, we hope very quickly, apply for pandemic unemployment. However, if you are still working now, you have to wait until you no longer are working to apply. If your work has gone down below 4 days a week, so if it's 3 days, 2 days, or 1 day, under our worst in the nation partial unemployment system, you may be able to establish a claim, but you have to be working less than 4 days. So either 3 days, 2 days, or 1 day. And if you can, you want to put all of your work on 1 day, if you can do that. Even if you are not eligible for regular unemployment insurance, you will need to apply for it and be denied before you can get pandemic unemployment assistance. I just wanted to give some information about how people can apply. I'm sure they've been online and they can see this, but right now they're having people apply based on their last name, which days, based on the last name, they'll have to apply at specific days. It really is best to apply online, and I really encourage people to be prepared before you start the process. Meaning, if you think you might qualify for regular unemployment or not, whatever work that you've had, employers that you've worked for, to have all of their information right next to you while you're applying. To obviously, if you have your license, you should have your license or an ID with you. You don't have to do that to apply, but if you have it, they ask you to input that information. Obviously, your social security number, your full address. You want to have your bank routing information so you can get direct deposit. If you do not do direct deposit, they will send you a benefit card in the mail that you have to go to an ATM to get money out of. So right now, you probably want to have it going to a bank account if at all possible. The first step to applying is you have to create a government ID. You can do that today or you can do that tomorrow. You can do that separate from the application, but if you do, when you do create your government ID, you want to make sure you remember your email address, obviously, and your password, and put it in a safe place. You can also apply by phone, but as probably everybody or many people know, you're getting busy signals right now. I don't know how long that's going to happen. I know very few people who are getting through online. It is particularly problematic for folks who do not speak English or Spanish, because the online application is only in English or Spanish. And if you speak any other language, you have to go on the phone. So right now, anybody who does not speak English or Spanish effectively cannot file for unemployment, which is a huge problem. I just wanted to provide some helpful links here. There are several frequently asked questions that are extraordinarily helpful. I mean, I've been somewhat critical of the Department of Labor today, but I will say that their website is very good. They've been working really, really hard. They have a lot of frontline workers who are just working long hours. So these are some guidances from the Department of Labor, and they're pretty decent, the frequently asked questions. One of the things that just popped up today is this last link, and this gives you instructions. This gives you an easy way to get through the New York State unemployment application if you know for sure you're not going to qualify, because these are for if you've only had self-employment income for the last 18 months, you're definitely not going to qualify for regular unemployment. And this link right here at the end gives you very specific instructions online how the application will look and the ways you may want to answer the question if you've only had self-employment income for the last 18 months. This does not apply for people who've had mixed income in the last 18 months. It only applies for people who've had self-employment for the last 8 months. So, be careful with that, because you don't want to lie on the application, obviously. But this gives you very specific instructions about how to do that. It just went up onto the website today. I didn't even know. Someone told me about it, so I thought I would include it. All right, that's the end of my presentation. If there's any specific questions, Brad, or anybody else that are coming through.
So here's what I think we should do. That was really helpful, and we're gonna, give this the PowerPoint. We'll send it out tomorrow. Obviously, this is a new program, and not only is it new, but it sounds like a whole critical piece of it that a ton of the people on this call want to know about has not yet actually been developed, and that the guidance that folks need, once they get rejected, and for folks who whose all their income is 1099s, that information is still to come. So. That unfortunately is like people want the answers and they need the answers, but we'll have to, we're going to stay in touch with this group of people. And then obviously I think it's worth all of us that are elected officials communicating to state DOL that they need to hire some additional people to be able to answer the phones and get the tech working. So I don't think it's going to work. I mean, there's hundreds and hundreds of questions, and we're not going to ignore them. We're going to copy them all and try to figure out how to work with our partners to make sure we can get these questions answered over time. But for now, I think we should say a big thank you to Nicole for going through all of that and giving us that much information so far, because we've got a bunch of other panelists. If we have some time at the end, we can come back to some of these questions, but this is not the end of answering these questions. It's really just the beginning. So Nicole, thank you very much.
You're welcome. I just have one more piece of information that's really important. If you are going to be receiving regular unemployment or pandemic unemployment, it's important to certify for your benefits every single week, because that's how you get benefits. Every single week certification.
Thank you so much. All right, so
Brad, this is Brad Hoylman. Thank you for having me. I have to jump off to join a conference and do votes up in Albany, but I've listed in the chat section my email and my telephone number. If particular individuals have problems getting through the State Department of Labor, you can work through my office. We can hopefully maybe cut the line for you. So please use that as a resource, particularly if you're in my district, but even if you're not, we can connect you to the right person. So please avail yourself of that.
That's great. And Brad, do you want to give 1 minute before we go to Carlina and then the 2 New York City commissioners we have on the line? Just about, I think I know people are crossing their fingers for what comes out of this budget. Is there any chance on some rent relief? What do you, give us kind of 1 minute. Obviously things are subject to change until that budget gets passed.
Well, we're hoping for the best, but it is a crazy time, obviously. In the best of circumstances, you never know what to predict when it comes down to the last hours of a state budget. This budget is unlike anything I've seen and any that I've served up here. So we don't know. We're fighting for it every step of the way. And there's issues that involve so many other circumstances of our society that are likely to be impacted through this budget. So I'm hoping for the best, and I just want you to know we're fighting for our values as New Yorkers here, but it's not pretty, to say the least, given the $8+ billion hole we find ourselves in, given the fact that our hospitals are on the brink, and given everything that you're enduring, including mass unemployment. So I really hope I can deliver some good news in a few hours, but I really can't guarantee it, to be very candid.
Thank you for jumping on. I think everyone on this call knows that you're like such a champion of folks fighting for that rent relief, fighting for, the artists and freelancers on this call, fighting for folks who need it in New York State, New York City, and New York State. So we wish you good luck in the next few hours, and thank you for fighting for us up there.
Thank you.
All right. We have another council member and 2 great commissioners on the call. So I'm going to ask Councilmember Carolina Rivera to speak, and then introduce. We've got both the commissioners of the Department of Small Business Services and the Department of Consumer and Worker Protection, who have relevant programs and information and resources for the folks on this call. So Carlina, take it away. You're on mute, though.
I think it's working now. Okay, great. I think my favorite tweet out of millions of tweets was, I don't know who needs to hear this, but you're on mute. So hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm very, very happy to be with you tonight. I know that it's super stressful and there's a ton of information around there, but the presentation was very, very informative, and I know there's a lot of moving parts. So I'm just gonna be brief and then introduce the commissioners. So I'm Carolina Rivera. I am a New York City council member. I represent East Side, Lower East Side, where I was born and raised. I am currently the chair of the Committee on Hospitals. We're trying to work and fight to improve hospital patient transfers and supplies so that we can truly work as one system. We're very, very worried about the Medicaid cuts, ensuring hospitals don't leave our uninsured or underinsured New Yorkers out in the cold. And then also making sure things like pregnancy visitation and new birthing centers are a priority, support for our healthcare workers, and then advocating for universal healthcare. I think that has been something that has been uncovered, has been spoken about over and over and over again, and I think it's pretty clear that it's something that we need now. So other things that we're working on, and that you'll hear from the commissioners about, our small businesses, our workers, freelance gig workers, our undocumented individuals, and I know Commissioner Salas has something to say about that. Then of course, making sure that we are getting the message out there in multiple languages, and yes, language access is certainly a challenge, but closing our playgrounds and opening streets to promote social distancing, donating to our healthcare workers who don't have time to wash their clothes or go grocery shopping or eat lunch, senior hours at our local grocery stores, and of course, all the folks who are on Rikers Island right now as the coronavirus spreads like wildfire. So for now, what we're trying to focus on is the individual and those entities. In my district, I have a ton of small businesses, bars, restaurants, hair salons, nail salons, barbershops, all the things that are closed and affecting our economy. over and over and over again every single day. So I just want to say thank you for having us. Thank you to all of the talented individuals who are on this call. And I want to introduce two people who are working every single day and around the clock to try to support these efforts when it comes to consumer and worker protections, and of course our small businesses. I know Commissioner Salas is on. I saw her since first minute. She's been here hanging with us. And of course, Commissioner Gregg Bishop from Small Business Services. So with that, I'll let them take it away and talk a little bit about some of the initiatives that are for the working people of New York City.
Great. I guess I'll go, Gregg, if you don't mind. Good evening, everyone, and thank you so much for having me. Really appreciate the opportunity to not only learn from Nicole and all the latest on the unemployment insurance benefit, but also be able to share the work that we're doing in my office, the Department of Consumer and Worker Protection. We transitioned to do all of our work remotely. I'm glad to be able to say that we are continuing to maintain a very high level of services for our consumers, our workers, and even businesses that we license. So we have been super, super busy as a result of COVID-19. And I want to focus my talking points on the issues that touch freelancers more closely, obviously, because that's who is listening today. And so, you know, as you probably know, we are the agency that enforces the Freelancers Isn't Free Act, a law that was championed by Councilmember Lander and the Freelancers Union and many people in this group. And this law, I believe, is still the only one in the country that guarantees freelancers the right to get paid on time. So that is one thing that you should remember. If you've completed work for which you haven't gotten paid, you can call us. We have been very successful at getting freelancers back their money from the companies that hire them and that delayed payment. We've already went above $1 million in recovery of money that was owed to freelancers. Most of these cases were handled within 90 days of filing a complaint with us, so the cases move fast. We are definitely prioritizing making sure that people have the money that they earned, so this is work that we care a lot about. As I said, because we're still open for business, you know, you can reach us by calling 311. You can also email us at olps@dca.nyc.gov. So the Freelancers Isn't Free Act is a priority for us. So please reach out if you have questions, complaints, or you just want to understand what your rights are. I want to touch for a few minutes on the paid sick leave law because, as Nicole mentioned, there are going to be many people who are both W-2 employees and also 1099 employees. So you may have a mix of people who earn income in both ways, right? If you are employed or if you possibly may have been misclassified as an independent contractor, you may also be entitled to paid sick leave benefits if you know you're still employed, but you need to take time off because you are ill or you have to take care of your family who has someone in your household who contracted the disease. Now there are, in addition to the New York City paid sick leave law, which is pretty broad in its coverage, it, you know, as Councilmember Rivera was referring, this is a law that protects all workers in New York City in the private sector, regardless of immigration status. And it applies whether you're a full-time, part-time, or temporary worker. And so if you have any doubts, you may consider yourself an independent contractor or freelancer, but you may also be employed part-time or on a temporary basis with an employer. Just file a complaint with us or call us if you have questions. Let us be the ones who determine whether you're entitled to the benefit or not. There are also, you may have heard recent changes in state law and in federal law, granting also expanded paid sick leave benefits. And we're really focused on trying to make sure that there's guidance that is clear and accurate, because it's going to be confusing for people to navigate all these different levels of benefits from different levels of government. So we hope to continue to be a resource for all workers, which include freelancers in the city, who need to understand their rights and where to get the best protection. We have been getting hundreds and hundreds of inquiries and complaints from workers during this crisis, and in many cases, helping them figure out which phone number to call or which website to visit when they were looking for something that the city does not handle, but is something that is the jurisdiction of the state government. Couple more things that are relevant to freelancers. My office also coordinates the free tax preparation services each year in the city. And while this year, obviously, we are practicing social distance, so therefore we don't have in-person services, we are still trying to figure out how to best serve New Yorkers, many of whom are going to need to file their taxes in order to be able to apply for these unemployment insurance benefits. So stay tuned. For now, obviously, you can do your taxes online, but we're trying to figure out a way in which our free tax prep counselors can provide more assistance and navigation to tax filers during this period of time when we are, again, practicing social distance and cannot see people in person. And one more thing that I would say, because I think that during this time of financial crisis and distress, we're hoping to see even more relief from the federal government. We know that there is some relief for student loan debt borrowers, and please contact us. We have financial counselors throughout the city who now are working remotely, right? But are able to provide assistance and navigation to all New Yorkers, regardless of income, regardless of where they're coming from or what language they speak, in order to help them manage their finances. So I think those are the key issues that I'd like to mention now, and I know that there's going to be a lot more time for questions, and I want to make sure that my colleagues also get a chance to speak, but please make sure that talk to us if you have questions. We really look forward to continue to collaborate with all of you to make sure that we are continue to rebuild our city together. Thank you.
And a bunch of you have asked for the commissioners, the agency's contact information, which is being put in the chat and the Q&A, but we will also send it all out tomorrow to everybody who registered, to everyone's email. So
Great.
Thank you so much, Commissioner. We'll see if we can do some questions at the end, but that was really helpful. And I know you'll follow up with people. I would just urge people, if you think you might be eligible under Freelancers and Free Act or paid sick days, reach out to them and let them help you. They've got a great team to figure it out. And as my wonderful colleague, Councilmember Rivera said before, we also have the New York City Commissioner, the Commissioner of the New York City Department of Small Business Services, who has done amazing work to stand up 3 different grant and loan programs in rapid succession. And I know it's hard for people, but I've already heard from a couple of businesses who applied for and actually received bridge loans and were able to make payroll as a result. So Commissioner, thank you so much for getting those programs stood up so quickly, and we'll turn it over to you. Gregg, are you there? You're on mute.
There you go. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you now. Perfect.
All right. Thank you, Councilmember, and of course, thank you for having this town hall. It's so important, and of course, this community is very important, and I want to send a special shout out to our federal partners because we were concerned that freelancers and our independent contractors would be left out, and I'm happy to say that this program coming down from the SBA is really inclusive of not only our small businesses, but our independent artists and contractors. I'm going to be really quick because there are 3 programs, 1 city and 2 federal, that I think everyone should pay attention to and apply. The biggest question I think people may have is, can I apply for both? So if I'm applying for unemployment, can I apply for these programs? And the answer is yes. If you are a freelancer, I know most folks are not commingling their expenses. you can use your unemployment for your personal expenses, and then of course these programs that I'm talking about for your business expenses. Our city program that we have available for individuals with either no employees, so you're an independent contractor, or you have up to 99 employees, a small business continuity fund. That is the loan that the council member talked about. It is a zero interest loan up to $75,000. That application is live and available. You do have to demonstrate a decrease of sales of 25% or more, but that you can use any number of things to demonstrate that. You can definitely on our website nyc.gov/COVID-19 you can find a link and apply, and also get assistance through our NYC Business Solution Centers for that program. That program is meant to be a bridge because there's two programs that the federal government, the SBA, is standing up that I want to make sure that everyone is aware of. One was stood up on Monday, and that is available at COVID-19relief.sba.gov, and that is the Economic Injury Disaster Loan. That is a very great program, and the reason why I said that's a great program, it's open for everyone: independent contractors, sole proprietors, whether or not you're self-employed, ESOPs, cooperatives, nonprofits, etc. You can apply there now and also request a economic injury disaster loan advance up to $10,000. Now, in the guidance, and again, just like the previous presenter talked about, everything is changing, but the guidance right now is that upon receipt of a successful application, that $10,000 grant will be made available. And it's actually an advance on the loan. So there is the ability to get dollars as quickly as possible if you go to that website. And I'll say it one more time: COVID-19relief.sba.gov. And what I'm hearing so far from people who have applied, it takes about 5 minutes to apply. So I think that is a program that everyone who's a freelancer, independent artist should apply to as we speak. The other program that's going to be available on Friday is going to be available for sole proprietors and small businesses. And then I believe the following week it's going to be open to independent contractors. I'll confirm the date. Actually, yes, April 10th. It will be available for independent contractors and self-employed individuals. This is the Paycheck Protection Program. Now, you may say that I may not have an employee, but the program, it's a loan that you could also use for not only just payroll costs, but other costs associated with running your business. It is a forgivable loan. If you don't use it for payroll, then certain portions of it could be forgiven. For example, rent, mortgage interest, utilities, etc. That program is only available through lenders. So if you have a relationship with a bank, you definitely should contact your bank, or your bank may have already contacted you and let you know that this program is available. If you have a business account with them. If you don't, you can contact us and we will connect you to our lender. We have through the grant program, the loan program that we have, we are working with an approved SBA lender. So if you apply for our loan, then we'll connect you to the lender that will then have the PPP program available. But this program is available to self-employed individuals, gig workers, and it is certainly something that you should tap into. Can you apply for both? Yes. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to give a special shout out to our federal elected officials who fought really hard, not only for this group, but to also make sure that this money would be flexible as possible. So those are the three programs that's available. The Economic Injury Disaster Loan, the applications are live. You can apply right now. I would encourage you to do that. These dollars are first come, first serve. It is the PPP program is about $350 billion, and that's first come, first serve. and that's going to be live for sole proprietors and small businesses on Friday, and then for self-employed individuals next week Friday. So those are the programs that's available right now, and we'll be happy to take, again, one last time, if you have any questions or you are looking to get access to all the links, you can go to our webpage, nyc.gov/COVID-19BIZ. If you want to go directly to the SBA and apply for the economic injury loan, you can go to covid19relief.sba.gov. Thank you very much, Councilmember, for having this, and happy to take questions later.
Thank you so much, Gregg. And in the comments, where the State Department of Labor was getting like, I can't get through, the website doesn't work, I can never get them on the phone, you're getting a nice number of comments of like, the website is helpful, they answered my questions, I was able to apply, and a couple of people in the chat already got their resources. So I know you guys are working hard, and we appreciate it. Just one question for you. I think some of these folks, because they're working with a lot of different groups, and freelancers might have more than one business. If you have more than one business set up, can you apply, for each of them under your programs if you would be eligible?
Yeah, these programs are based on your business identification. So if you have multiple businesses, you have different expenses for those businesses. You can apply independently for all our programs, not only the city, but also the federal. Okay.
That's really helpful, and we are continuing to post the stuff in the chat, but all of these links will again be what's sent out tomorrow. And I want to mention, we don't have them on the call tonight, but there's a third agency highly relevant to a lot of you, which is the Mayor's Office of Media and Entertainment, and they also reached out as well. And they have a COVID survey that I'm putting in the chat, and that we'll send out tomorrow as well. And they would love to hear from folks who work in the nightlife industry, and I just sent the link around, and we'll send that around tomorrow as well. And thanks to them for the work that they're doing. We're one of the first cities in the country with a real attention to nightlife and trying to support it. And obviously that's a place where people are really feeling the pain right now. So thanks for everybody who's in nightlife. Another thing that makes that we think of as essential work, even if we aren't clapping for it at 7 p.m., but that we know we need. So so we'll send that, do that survey, and we'll send it around as well. All right. I was going to jump to the new president and CEO of the Freelancers Union, who's done so much to build this, but I see now that Assemblymember Yuh-line Niou has jumped in, and she's just off the floor.
You can go first. It's fine. I have a little bit more time now. It took me a while to get on, but you can go ahead with him.
You sure? Because if you're in the middle of budget negotiations. So
I know. I'm in the middle of budget negotiations.
Yeah, all right. So Rafael is saying you should go. You should go first. Brad talked just a tiny little bit about the fight for some kind of rent relief, but people really are eager to hear. And then after that, we'll go to Rafael.
Yeah. So first off, I just want to say thank you. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Yuh-line Niou, and I actually represent Lower Manhattan, including the Financial District, Lower East Side, Chinatown, South Street Seaport, and Battery Park City. As a lot of you probably know, Chinatown was hit probably the hardest first, and will probably be the slowest to recover, sadly. Sorry, I cried like 500 times today, and it's like we're in the middle of our budget negotiations. It's been really bad. It's been really, really awful. So I apologize. I'm in a very bad place in my mind right now. But I just want to say thank you all for tuning in and joining in on this very important conversation. And I wanted to say thank you to all the folks who helped to host this, especially to Brad, very good friend, and also a huge champion of a lot of the work that we're doing. And I wanted to say that in the light of this outbreak of COVID-19, and where New York now has literally the most coronavirus cases in the United States, and also probably in the entire world, we can't wait for the virus to spread any further before taking action. I think that unfortunately our federal efforts in regards to providing aid to us, especially in our state, because apparently Florida gets everything that they want, amid all this, it's really slow moving, and we're really desperate right now. And it's essential that during this crisis that we work to really protect our community members and provide the relief as people are being laid off and being furloughed, and businesses are closing left and right. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, guys.
Yuh-line, there's a lot of love for you in the chat right now, and so much appreciation for the fight that you're fighting for everyone up there. I think you got a lot of people here who feel the same way and are like so grateful, and grateful to you for like keeping it real. Like, this is a lot of folks on the call are feeling.
This is so embarrassing.
No. It shows that you like get what people are feeling right now. Like, that is the agony that's why there's 1,000 people on this call, is because that's where we are in New York right now, and you're showing it. Is I don't know if you could see the chat, but the chat is blowing up with love for you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. I just also found out my district leader was hospitalized, and it's a lot right now. But this past week and a half, I introduced 3 bills that work to ensure that our community, including our freelance and gig worker community members, are supported during this pandemic. So many of our community members in the food service industry, in the retail industry, our gig workers, our freelancers, they've lost their income during this crisis. I mean, including my own partner, right? He works on shows, and right now we only have my income, and my income only covers 50% of 50% of my entire income goes to rent. And so I understand how hard it is for folks, because if I cover his half of the rent, even when I have a salary job, that means that, 100% of my income goes to rent, and then you wonder what we will eat, right? And I think that a lot of people are in the same position. And so the first bill I introduced alongside Senator Gianaris, and this was to suspend rent payments for certain residential tenants, small business commercial tenants, and certain mortgage payments, actually, for anybody who applies, says that they have hardship. That's it. So when we say certain, it means like anybody who has hardship. And it covers any residential tenant or small business commercial tenant in the state that has lost any kind of earned income, has been forced to close their place of business, or whose business has lost income as a result of government ordered restrictions. And that means like anybody who was deemed non-essential, and anybody who was also deemed essential but had, any kind of income or any kind of partial closure also counts. And so, we wanted to make sure that that when the crisis passed and residential tenants and small business commercial tenants are trying to rebuild, that they would not be required to pay any rent waived during this time period. The second bill suspends rent payments for certain tenants in response to the outbreak of coronavirus, and it also establishes a COVID-19 rental assistance fund that will, rent for certain small landlords, I apologize. It also establishes a COVID rental assistance fund that will provide relief from reduced rental income caused by COVID-19. And so this is kind of a bill that if the first bill passes, the second bill is a hook to it that will help to make sure that there is a way to recoup those funds, right? And this covers any of the small landlords in the state that has lost that income. And so what we need to do was we needed to make sure that that piece is very is very well taken care of, because we know that there's a domino effect, right? There's a domino effect, and some of our small landlords can't handle the same things that big landlords can, right? And so we wanted to establish the Small Landlord Emergency Assistance Fund. So as I mentioned before, we have proposed a law that provides mortgage relief and suspends rent payments for businesses that have been forced to shut down and tenants who have lost income. While that is important to our tenants and businesses, we also need to protect our small landlords. This legislation protects our small landlords who, beyond mortgage payments, will have to continue to pay their property taxes, heat costs, water and sewer fees, building maintenance, and other general operating costs. And we need to ensure that our community is supported during this health crisis, and ensure that we are providing resources that are essential for our small landlords to be able to continue to maintain their buildings, and also proper living conditions for our tenants. sorry, I went backwards a little bit, but the second bill that we were talking about suspends rent payments for certain tenants in response to the outbreak of the virus. And this covers any tenant in the state that has lost any earned income, been forced to close their place of business, or whose business has lost income as a result of government-ordered restrictions in response to COVID-19. So all of these bills have been introduced with one purpose, and that's to make sure that our small businesses and our community members who have been financially impacted are able to maintain their commercial space and to ensure that everyone has a safe place to go. Because, and we also want to make sure that people understand that actually NYCHA is also included. Because when we're saying all residents, like we're talking about all residents, right? Even though I want to also add that NYCHA residents are actually the only ones with any kind of rental relief right now, because they actually have the ability to apply. So folks that you know who live in NYCHA or public housing can actually get a, they can actually also go into zero rent if you have zero income. So there's actually some programs that are completely possible right now. I can forward that on to anybody who wants to contact my office, because we have a chart that NYCHA has put out that helps to make sure that people understand like what their regulations are. But of course, if our bill passes, that makes it so that all of those means tests are also gone. So like, one of the things that I think is really, really hard is that means test that a lot of people want to put onto a lot of different kinds of bills. Because if we have a means test, it makes it so that, for example, like with my partner, it's not like he lost his job. He's a freelancer, it's not like he lost a job. What he is that there's no gigs right now, right? There's no, his company is himself, and so it's not like he is fired, and so it's hard for him to like apply for certain things because of where he sits. And so I think it's really important that we are actually making sure that people understand like what it is like, and so I think that there is particular there's particular things that just don't mesh up with our unemployment benefits, et cetera. And right now, we do have some extra leeway. And I know that folks have already talked about that, that change in unemployment benefits that we're trying to make sure have access and have an ability to be able to access that extra money. Because right now, unemployment benefits should be going to everyone. And I do know also that the site has crashed like 5 million times because my partner has tried to get on himself, and like literally it's insane right now, because what the volume of what they get usually in a day is about 40,000 calls. And I will say that they have more than they've been getting over 160,000, I believe, daily. So it's been a lot. And so, I want to make sure that people understand that, the site, it's not that it's not working, and it's not that you can't get help, but we also in our office, and in probably Rafael's office and Brad's office, et cetera, and the commissioner probably could help out too as well. But we also can help when you are if you're unable to get the help you need, like please call our offices. You can make sure to let us know, like, hey, the site's not working. We could make sure to help to keep a watch on it, and then help to fill things out for you, and then help to get you the help that you need. So reach out to your assembly members, reach out to your city council members, reach out to city electeds, etc. And I just turned on the chats, right? And I'm getting a lot of questions, but I don't know. It's going really, really fast. So
yeah, we're sending some stuff out tomorrow.
Okay.
So I think what we can do is if you can, we'll copy this stuff and we'll make sure.
And I think I missed a lot of the beginning. I know you guys were on for an hour ahead of time.
We still haven't gotten to Rafael and Michael, so I want to turn it over to them now. But let's we'll send the information on those bills and what people can do to support them. There's a lot of love in the chat for the bills, and a real appreciation for you for like getting what it feels like for folks to be in the position that they are and like fighting like hell for it. So thank you. Really.
To support the bills, I do know that a lot of people wanted to know how they could support the bills. Right now, even though we are in the budget time, we could have added it into the budget. I want to say that we could have done it, but unfortunately, our governor and our leadership did not deem it worthy to do it. The governor thinks that he's already taken care of rents by saying that people can't get evicted for 90 days, which I believe to be very untrue. And I also think that it's really important that we are calling in to our leadership's office and also to our governor and letting him know how important this is to us, and how literally, if we're asking people to stay inside, that we need homes to stay in. Like, it's just that simple. And so if people want to support, please, call your electeds, call your assembly member, make sure that they're signed on to the bills. We still have an opportunity right now because we just changed our rules to be able to vote electronically. And so we will be continuing our policy parts of our session. And so please tell your members to help to sign on to the bill, push for this agenda, and make sure that we are actually hearing your voices, because your voices are the most important right now. And it's the people who are, on the ground experiencing every single day of this that should be speaking up, right? And so that's everyone. And we need to make sure that we're helping everyone to be able to get through this, because we have to do it together. We have to do it together. And right now, if we're not all together on this, we won't survive. So.
Reach. Thank you, Yuh-line. That was incredible and a lot of appreciation. It's also a good transition to our final speakers, because we have some folks who do the organizing work to build the strength of this community to take leadership and fight for change.
Cheese, mayo, and mustard, and
Freelancers
ketchup. That's all I want.
So, Naomi, can you mute Iraq? The Freelancers Union has been organizing freelancers now for, 15 years, I think. And they've got a dynamite new president and CEO, a former colleague of mine who was a great legislator and elected official. But boy, what a time to come in and represent you guys. But if the power of organizing freelancers has ever been needed to win the kind of fights we're talking about, it is right now. And so we're really lucky that the new head of the Freelancers Union is Rafael Espinal, and I've seen what you've been doing. It's great. Folks are lucky to have you, and I know you've already set up a relief fund and started to do a lot of advocacy, and we're eager to hear about it.
Yeah, well, thank you, Brett. Thanks for having me, and thanks for setting up this forum. It's really important, I think, right now, as we're all isolated, to have opportunity like this for us to be able to connect and also give information out to those who need it most. So thank you all for being here, and Yuh-line for all your great work up in Albany. Thank you so much. Before I go into anything else, I just want to say that Nicole did an extraordinary job in talking about all of pretty much the main issue a lot of freelancers are facing right now. It's how do I apply for those benefits? How do I get the PUA benefits at the end of the day, especially if I don't qualify for the traditional states unemployment insurance. So thank you, Nicole. It's been really helpful for me as well to know and how to get that message across to all of our members. But I think that we all know, and it's been said throughout this evening, this is probably the largest financial crisis that freelancers have faced in modern history, and we really need an all hands on deck approach in order to figure out how do we create a comprehensive plan to provide them with the services and relief they need in order to deal with the immediate issues they're facing today, like paying rent and paying groceries, but also with the ripple effect this is going to have 3 or 4 months down the line. As businesses try to come back online, how quickly can we help them come back online so people can start working again? And we have to see this as just not only a 3-month approach, but also for the entire year. We recently put out a survey over the past few weeks as well. I know the Office of Nightlife has done their own. We put one nationwide, and we kind of try to focus on what has been the financial impact on workers. From what we've heard, we've received over 5,000 responses. 75% of freelancers across the board have lost work or are unemployed, especially in the artists and the musician industries. You're seeing over 90% of workers not having an opportunity to earn an income. So the need for government to step up right now more than ever is super important. Early on when we started seeing these shutdowns, we were I think the freelance community as a whole was frustrated that they weren't part of those initial conversations. You know, we heard conversations about providing loans and relief to small businesses, but when you had these independent workers, they were wondering what was going to be put on the table for them. You know, I'm happy to report, and I'm happy to hear that SBS and the federal government as well has put forward, I think, real solutions like expanding unemployment insurance, like expanding those small business loans that to now allow independent workers to qualify for. But the reality is, I think that the challenges that we're seeing now that all these great programs are in place, is that because of how new and how quickly this is all coming together, there really is no clear direction of how this is going to work and whether or not it's actually going to work for these workers. For example, the SBS commissioner brought up the Paycheck Protection Program, which is going to be given out through lenders. But I'm already hearing from freelancers that they've gone to their local banks like Chase, Capital One, and they weren't able to qualify for these loans because they've never opened up a business account. They've always used a personal account to put their income into. They never really opened a business account, and now they don't qualify for that program. So I'd be interested to talk about that further and see how we can start some organizing and conversations around opening that up and allowing freelancers to qualify for that. Because we know that, you know, a lot of workers who are self-employed don't think about opening a business account, don't think about becoming an LLC. They're performing this work at home. They're performing this work on site. They're collecting that income, putting it into the personal bank accounts without treading on those other options that are available to them. I would also say that, you know, I think now more than ever, the union has been working on organizing freelancers across the city and across the states. I think this is a perfect opportunity with this tragedy. I think it has shed a lot of light on the need to expand the social safety net for freelance workers. You know, as we saw, once people started losing work, they lost a way of income. I know that the expanded UI is going to help, but we have to have a real conversation of what that looks like down the line in the future. You know, freelance work is the future of our workforce, and we have to have real conversations coming out of City Hall, out of Albany, about what are the protections we can talk about to go forward to support them, so that we won't have to wait for the next tragedy to scramble and figure out what those solutions are. But you know, we also we're looking at ways to get creative on our own right. How can we provide a financial relief, and which is why I thought of creating the Freelancers Relief Fund, which launched just last week. And that fund, the idea behind it is to fundraise from the public, do some crowd fundraising, and use 100% of the money we fundraise to get to the hands of workers that need it most, that are facing real dire financial hardships right now. So I encourage anyone out there who is in a position to donate, please donate. If you can't donate and you know you have friends that do, please share the information so they can contribute. And that money will help those workers that need the support and give them that extra added boost of income to get through the next month and through this crisis. So that's where we are right now, and we're going to continue organizing. We're going to continue pushing the city and the state to continue pushing programs to support them. And I just want to add, I personally am part of the Cancel Rent Caucus. So you have my support, and I hope that we see that move forward, because the reality is, hearing from our workers, over 50% of our membership have noted that they're going to have trouble paying rent, and they're going to need assistance moving forward. So we hope we can see that bill move forward and get passed and provide the relief we need. So thank you all. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Rafael. And I just want to underline the importance of organizing. You know, we talked before, and I saw in the chat a lot of appreciation of the Freelancers and Free Act, so people don't get stiffed. That didn't like fall from heaven. That's because you guys organized, because workers who were pissed off about getting stiffed through the Freelancers Union built power together, organized, worked with me and the city council to get that bill passed, and now millions has been returned to freelancers. You know, we were able last year to make sure freelancers are protected by the New York City human rights law, which wasn't the case before. We're going to be introducing a bill to make sure that gig workers can get paid sick leave, and all the things that Yuh-line is talking about up in Albany. Like, this is the moment to fight for them. And I think all of you recognizing that freelancers are such an important part of the economy, organizing together to demand rights is the only way rights get won. So I think the work that Rafael, that you are doing is just so critical right now. Our last speaker, and he's been very patient, so I want to say thank you to Michael Royce from New York Foundation for the Arts. Obviously, we've got a lot of different kinds of freelancers on this call, but we called it specifically also for artists. We know so many of you, like, all the gigs have been canceled. We had already shifted to an economy where you had to make all the money on the gigs, and now all the gigs are canceled. And it's just a super difficult time, even as that is like one of the most important things. So Michael, talk a little bit about what you guys are doing and what other things are available for what artists should be paying attention to.
Sure. First, I want to just say that listening to this conversation, I feel a lot of people feel this way, just totally overwhelmed at the moment. It's almost hard to articulate, but I will do my best. I want to thank you, Councilmember Brad Lander, for organizing this, and all the elected officials and other panelists for being on this call and inviting NIFA to be on it. We feel it's an honor to be on this conversation because we know how hard each and every one of you is working to do the best for the city and providing economic safety net for everyone, especially those that are considered freelancers, artists, and those who are otherwise known as part of the gig economy. So thank you for that. For those on this call who don't know what NIFA is, really quickly, we are a national organization that helps artists in all disciplines with financial assistance, professional development, and online resources. The reason why we do this is because we have seen over many decades that artists tend to be the first responders to society's ills. When you really look at why society changes and how, it is generally because the artist community forces it upon us to change through their works. And because of their works, communities better understand themselves and other communities, and it compels us to shift ourselves to find a better part of ourselves to help us all move forward. And that is why artists are critical to New York City and the nation and the world. And I had to say that because this country, unfortunately, tends to overlook artists. So on this call, we've talked a lot about unemployment and loans, and I'm just gonna try and center it on grants for the moment to follow Rafael and the mention of the Freelancers Fund. As most artists don't have the financial wherewithal to take out a loan, no matter how small the interest may be, they just don't have it. And admittedly, the need far exceeds the amount of funds available, but I want people to know that grant programs are starting to appear specific for artists, and more are being developed every single day. And at NIFA, there is a site. It's very easy to get to. It's nifa.org. And when you land on the landing page, there's a slider that goes across. It says emergency grants. If you click on that, you will get we update it every single day. So if anybody knows of any emergency grants for artists, please let me know. We update it every single day to let artists know by discipline, by geography, by emergency, by amount, what's available to them, and all the criteria and the links to apply. And there is also talk right now of a new fund that's going to be announced next week. It already has 3.3 million, and I know that's very little money to what the needs are. It's supposed to go to 10 million. It was a collaborative effort of mid-sized nonprofits in the nation, and so be looking out for that. And I want to keep this short because I'm looking at the time, and I just want to make sure that any artist on this call has that information, knows where to get it, and how to access it. That's the most important thing for me to say, is go on that website, land on that page.
Michael, thank you so much. We're gonna, if panelists can stick around a little more, we still have about 800 people on this Zoom. So, and there's a lot of questions people have asked. So we'll keep going a little while more. Michael, a lot of appreciation for you in the chat. One question a lot of people have raised is, what about O1 visa holders and other folks who are either undocumented or here with status, but aren't always able to apply for various programs? So I guess Nicole for both the one-time federal payment and the UI, and maybe Gregg for the SBS programs. What's the story if you're an O1 visa holder? And I guess also what's the story if you're undocumented?
Yeah, so if you're undocumented and you don't have work authorization, you do not qualify for state unemployment, and you probably would not qualify for pandemic unemployment. We don't have the guidance on that, but I do not expect that folks who are undocumented will be eligible for pandemic unemployment. Unfortunately, it's just wrong, but it's what we have.
But one thing, I'm going to jump in there. This is another place where people could pile on New York State and New York City because the federal government screwed immigrants, folks who are undocumented and some with status because of Trump and the Republicans. But in both Albany and in New York City, you have people representing you who over and over again talk about how much we support immigrants. And so whether there can be state or city level, emergency cash programs or other kinds for immigrants is a matter of politics. So there's nothing on the table yet, but I just don't want that to be, something that's just like, well, we can't do anything. So, okay, and O1
So
visa.
I don't know about O1 visa holders. I know that if you're, I think with O1, I don't know with O1, but I know H1B, for example, those visa holders are connected to a particular employer. It is theoretically possible, we have never made this argument before, that maybe those folks may be eligible for some kind of unemployment. They have not been held to be eligible before because really, once you lose your employment from one employer, you're not really available for work. But right now, nobody can do work search, and there is no work. So I guess it's still an open question. In the past, those folks have not been eligible for unemployment, but we are not 100% sure whether they will be. So there is a small possibility that maybe some of those folks will be if New York State takes a very wide interpretation of the law. We'll have to see how that happens. And of course, we'll be pushing for that as advocates.
Is Commissioner Bishop or anybody from SBS still on?
I think I might be.
Oh,
yeah, I'm here. Yep. So for the 3 programs that I talked about, we are definitely paying attention to the undocumented entrepreneurs, and unfortunately, the 2 federal and the 1 loan program that we have that I talked about, the undocumented individuals will not be eligible. But that is one of the areas that we are having conversations in terms of how do we address that. And to your point, whether it's the philanthropic sector that we engage and get funds available, we want to make sure that we help all our entrepreneurs in New York City.
Thank you. Michael, you have something here?
Yeah, I just want to add that NYFA also has a program specific for immigrant artists. It's been running for 13 years. And again, if you go on our landing page, you will find a link, or I can actually cut and paste it into the chat box so that immigrant artists who are on this phone call can get the resources they're looking for, specific to their communities.
And I want to acknowledge one of the things that's been in the chat a lot is also about just all the gaps. So, for folks with disabilities, Zoom is a pretty limiting feature. Obviously, for folks who are entrepreneurs whose language is Spanish or Mandarin or Bangla, like where this Zoom had 1,000 people on it, but it's all in English. So there are huge gaps. There's like always been these gaps in our safety net, in language access, in access for people with disabilities. And of course, we're doing worse on those things now, than we normally are. So I think we will try to figure out, I will say that we didn't have anybody on from the New York City Commission on Human Rights, but the human rights law is not suspended by the emergency. And, where there is discrimination, they are working hard to address it. And we will try to figure out how we can be part of a community that gets this information out and available in all the different ways that people need to get it. This we just set up because David Sifford and Mia Perlman said, hey, there's a lot of folks out there that need information, and everybody on here tonight agreed to come on. They might have a day job doing this, but everybody is volunteering tonight to provide this information. So let's be a community together that tries to find out the information, shares it as much as we can. I thinks about who needs to get it and does all we can together to get it there. There's like, we can be pissed off that that isn't already in place, but let's try to work together to make sure we do it as best we possibly can. There have been a lot of other questions in the Q&A and in the chat. I wonder if any of the panelists have either seen things that came up as questions or had things that occurred to you that you want to make sure people hear. We can just spend a little time. Yes, Yuh-line.
I put the question answer, I pulled it up a little bit, and then I answered one of the questions, which was basically asking about the bill number. And then a lot of people had asked in the chat what was some of the different provisions in the bill, and then also asked like who it would cover, and then if it was actually cancellation or suspension. Even though we say the word suspend, it actually is cancellation, and so just an FYI. And so just so that you guys have the kind of like the memos of each of the bills, it's actually in the Q&A answer portion. And so I do have to run because they've literally already started, and so we need to go to vote on budget stuff. But I do want to say thank you so much for having me, and my staff, I believe, are actually on the call listening, but I can also have Lawrence call in for me as well. He is literally my brain, so if anybody needs Lawrence, just let me know and I can make sure that he gets to sign in as well. So
Thank you, Yuh-line. Give him hell out there.
It's hell on earth right now, I tell you.
Yeah.
Thank you, though.
Some reminders in the chat to fill out your census if you haven't filled out your census. Today is Census Day. I didn't know there was Census Day before, but that means you got till midnight to like get your census done on Census Day. And obviously it's, we could all be rightly pissed off about how badly the federal government has done in this crisis. But boy, the need that we have at this moment can only be met by the scale of resources that are available from the federal government. So unless we stand up and be counted, they are not going to be there. So
I could add something about, there was a bunch of questions about the $600 add-on. People do not have to apply for that separately. If you qualify for state unemployment and you're certifying for benefits, you'll get your regular unemployment and you'll get the $600 add-on. You don't have to apply for it. Once pandemic unemployment comes into being, which as soon as that application comes up, people can start applying for it. That you do not need to apply separately for the $600 add-on. That will be automatic. And if I could just say a few more things about what I think really would make a difference for the Department of Labor. I don't know if there's anybody on this call who could put some pressure on the Department of Labor. Yes, they're overworked. Yes, it's too much going on with them right now, but there's a lot that they could do to streamline applications so that if there's any issues with eligibility, they do those investigations and put those to the side and just give benefits. They have a system where they stop eligibility, and if there's any issue, they should not do that. As long as they find monetary benefit eligibility, they should be issuing benefits. So if there's some way to put pressure on the Department of Labor to do that, it's really what they need to do. One other point on language access. Right now, if you do not speak English or Spanish, you cannot apply for benefits. Why? Because you cannot get through on the phone, and that's the only way to apply if you don't speak English or Spanish. You cannot apply online if you don't speak English or Spanish. So they should have a separate phone number for those who speak other languages, because those people are completely shut out, 100%. They're getting busy signals all the time.
All right, a couple of you have reminded me that my census pitch made it sound a little like midnight tonight was your deadline. It's great to fill out your census by midnight tonight, but there are still months to fill it out, and we've got a lot of work to do to make sure everybody fills it out, in every language and every way. Nicole, can you repeat what you said about the 600 automatic, please? I think a couple.
Okay, so one of the unique things that is happening with the new federal legislation that just passed is that there is a $600 add-on to whatever your benefit rate would be. The maximum benefit rate in New York State is $504 a week. With the $600 add-on, you can get up to $1,104 a week, every single week for the next 4 months till the end of July. That $600, you do not have to apply for that separately. As long as you are certifying for regular state unemployment benefits, if you qualify for regular state unemployment benefits, you will get the $600. You don't need to do anything other than certify for benefits. If you do not qualify for regular state unemployment, you will be denied regular state unemployment, but you may very well be eligible for the pandemic unemployment that I talked about, which is for independent contractors and for self-employed people and some limited other people who don't qualify for regular state unemployment. Those people will get a benefit rate. It could be up to $504. With the $600 add-on, it could be $1,104 a week, and they don't need to do anything to get that $600. It will be automatic when they apply for the pandemic unemployment based on whatever their tax returns are. They're going to have, when that application comes up, that information will be provided. Keep checking back onto the DOL website, and please always certify for your benefits every single week. Every single week, certify for benefits.
I just want to add something. Well, first and foremost, thanks, Brad. I'm going to hop off this call in a minute. But thank you for putting this together again with the advocates. Really appreciate it. Very informative. And great census video you've made today on Census Day. I also wasn't aware it was Census Day until I saw it. So thank you for doing that. I encourage all freelancers to please fill out that census. It's the only way you'll get counted and ensure that our cities and our states get the funding they need in order to provide us with the services that we need and deserve. Just one point I want to highlight, and it's one that's been coming up a lot from our membership, is that a lot of freelancers are not getting paid for services that they've executed back in January and February because their clients are claiming that they don't have the funds to pay them, or because of this COVID pandemic, that they should wait 90 days until it's over in order for them to be properly paid. So I think it's something important for the commissioner to be mindful of, and the Freelancers Isn't Free Act, I think, is very important to utilize that act right now. And if there's any way in which you can use your appropriate channels to inform workers and that this law is still in existence and it's there to support them, and if they're not having gotten paid for previous work, that they're entitled to that payment, it'll be super helpful. Thank you all.
Thanks, Rafael. That was great, and keep up the good work. And we know the power you're building with freelancers is going to matter now and in the long run. So thank you. Any other last thoughts, words, questions for tonight? All right. So I want to say a huge thank you to these panelists. You know, I still see that Commissioner Salas and Commissioner Bishop are still on with us at 8:45, and like they've been working all day long, receiving massive amounts of incoming. So really grateful to that. To Knife and to Freelancers Union for all your organizing. Nicole, that presentation was fantastic. As I said before, David Siffert and Mia Perlman were the ones who kicked this off and got it started. It wouldn't have happened without them. And Naomi Dan and Steph Sokowski from my office have like managed this, like putting this whole thing together and enabling everybody to get on it and chasing the trolls out of the chat and putting the resource package together. So what we're going to do for tomorrow, there's a lot of resources that were listed here, and they're all will be pulled together into one document. Nicole's PowerPoint, all the links and information, all the contact information on the existing programs. We're going to do our best to give some of the Q&As that were answered here. As you guys heard, there's still a lot, that people don't know, and until that, the subsequent unemployment application is up for a lot of folks, it's going to be hard to know how to answer those questions. But we will both send it out and stay in touch with you. And as we find out more, let's use this community. You can provide us links as you see them, and we'll make sure they get out to everybody here. And as Nicole and her team and the other teams on this call are finding out what's going on, we'll share it. And as there's important opportunities to join together to push back to make more change, this is the community that is part of the community that's going to have to do that as well. So huge thank you to everyone on. Big thank you to the panelists and the organizers. This was really a very powerful community tonight. There's clearly a lot of need out there, but wow, this is a community full of creative, powerful, passionate, smart folks, and we're going to get through this together, and we're going to organize, not only to make sure people get as many of the benefits as they're entitled to, but to make some of the changes that build a society in which everybody, in which artists and musicians and grocery store workers and healthcare workers have the things that we need to thrive. And boy, we're seeing just how critical that is right now. So thank you all for being part of that community and for building it together. And hope everyone has a really good evening. Stay safe, and we'll work through this together.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.